Hey, good day, ladies and gentlemen. It is your beloved Unkle Dunkkle with
Beezy Dabbers.
on our first edition of Dabbers and Dunkkle. This will be the overrated episode because we're going to be looking at 10 players, coaches, things that are overrated in football. So I will be reading off three choices, and this young man will be picking one of them. Let's get started with number one. And since you are such a diehard Buffalo Bills fan, we're going to start with a question about the Bills. Name the most overrated Buffalo Bills quarterback: Jim Kelly, Drew Bledsoe, or Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Alright, so Jim, he may not won any Super Bowls, but he definitely went to some. I don't really know much about Drew Bledsoe on the Bills. I know he played a few seasons. I'm gonna say Ryan on that one because Ryan's been on like 5 teams, and a lot of people only really know him for his beard and the crazy play with the hand in his face mask against the Raiders when he played for the Dolphins. Um, But yeah, Ryan is he's not very good. All of his team every single season except for one or two I think, he has been losing to winning ratio.
Right, and I'm actually going to put my professor approval on this one. And I'm going to totally agree. The beard is great, much greater than mine, but his performance mediocre. And unfortunately, now I think he's on gambling commercials too. So that definitely puts a big thumbs down in my book. Number two, looking at the 2024 season starting in a couple months, name the most overrated running back: Josh Jacobs, Derrick Henry, or Joe Mixon.
Joe Mixon probably.
Why Mixon?
Well, a lot of people talk about him a lot sometimes, and I understand that he's like an okay running back, but what people give him is way too much credit because he's usually not scoring as many touchdowns as other people, and he's not as reliable as other people. So if Joe Burrow is like in the pocket and he's looking for someone, yeah, he can pass to Joe Mixon, but Joe Mixon's probably not going to get him as many yards as he should, and he's just kind of overrated in my book.
All right, I'll go with that. Number three, name the most overrated coach. We're going to dig back a little bit to the 1980s and 90s. Marty Schottenheimer, Bill Belichick, or Mike Tomlin.
I think I got to put Marty Schottenheimer on that one because he went to the playoffs a lot of times, and he really never made it past the divisional. So
All right, you got that from me.
yeah, it's kind of weird
I'm going to agree with you. I want to add a little on there. I think, and a lot of people are going to be surprised to hear this, but I might put Bill Belichick up there as well in a certain way because even though he won all of those Super Bowls, six of them with Brady, his record without Brady is a losing record. It's something like 80 and 90 without Brady as his quarterback. So you got to ask the question, is Belichick really that great, or did Brady make him look great? All right, let's sit up here. Move on to number four. The most overrated AFC team. We looking at the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Miami Dolphins, or the New York Jets?
Jets, Jets. They are extremely overrated. When they got Aaron Rodgers, Jets fans were like, "Oh my goodness, we're gonna go to the Super Bowl. We're gonna win it." What happened on the fourth play? Achilles tear. They had Garrett Wilson, Randall Cobb, Alan Lazard, and they had CJ Azuma, and they still can't even go to the playoffs. They're extremely overrated because they get talked about a ton, and although their defense may be okay, their offense gets way more talk about it than their defense. So I would actually say that the Jets are the overrated team in this situation.
You know, I completely agree, and I don't like to use it up this early, but I'm going to use my second professor approval on this one because the Jets are like, I don't know if it's worse to be a Bills fan or a Jets fan, but the Jets have not been to a Super Bowl since January of 1969 when Joe Namath was their quarterback. So 55 years of futility and frustration for that franchise.
The Bills don't know what a Super Bowl is.
Well, the Bills have been to four Super Bowls in the 90s at least, but again, the Jets, the defense solid, offense struggle, and they're still so the playoffs and especially the Super Bowl so elusive for them. Number 5, the most overrated NFC team. Green Bay Packers, Dallas Cowboys, Minnesota Vikings.
I gotta admit, I think I'm gonna pick Dallas because the Cowboys, although they first of all they get talked about a ton on how good they are and how they are amazing, they're not. There's a few parts that makes them overrated. One, their defense. Their defense is amazing, straight out of the books. But you know what makes them overrated? When they play bad teams. That's the only time when they get their really good plays. Their quarterback Dak, he's just give it up. He's not the guy. He's 2-5 in the playoffs. He crashes in the playoffs, and he's really sort of only good at running. He's good at passing, but he's basically known for running. And of course, Mike McCarthy, one of the most overrated coaches in the league. I bet.
Excellent. Number 6, the most overrated kicker. Evan McPherson, Tyler Bass, or Greg Joseph.
Um, there's nothing really to be overrated about Tyler Bass or Greg Joseph because no one really talks about them. Evan McPherson's a big key of overratedness because, first of all, last year, his first year, phenomenal. He was amazing. He was kicking 50-yarders. But you know what happened? The next year, his second year, he started his accuracy started going terrible, and his range started going closer and farther. And people were still talking about how good he was and how he carried the Bengals sometimes, which I completely disagree with. So he's definitely my pick for that one.
Yeah. I did hear some people talk about Tyler Bass, especially after that game against the Chiefs. Wide right. Number 7, name the most overrated trick play. The most overrated trick play is it the reverse, the flea flicker, or the fake punt.
Okay, so flea flicker and fake punt are just pure raw skill and riskiness. The reverse, it's overplayed and it's overthought. Let's admit, the reverse is extremely annoying when a team does it more than 2 times in a game. And let's say you're going on one's left side. If you have terrible blocking, they're going to cut you off on both sides and you're going to get negative yards. So you really need to have a good offensive line to have a reverse actually be in your favor.
Right, and I remember playing on Tecmo Super Bowl. Yeah, I'm aging myself. But on Tecmo Super Bowl, some of those teams you play against would run that like 8 or 10 times in a game. You just pick the reverse play and nail them for a loss every time. Number 8, name the most overrated rivalry. Is it Packers Bears? Is it the Eagles Cowboys? Or is it Steelers Ravens?
I gotta admit, I think it's gonna be Packers Bears for me actually, because especially like in the last I don't know 2 to 3 years, the Packers and the Bears games have been so over talked about. Hey, are you going? Are you gonna watch the Packers and Bears game? It's gonna be such a good game. And then last Packers and Bears game I watched, Packers won 17-9. Bears didn't even get a touchdown. How boring is that? Steelers and Ravens, great rivalry to watch. And Cowboys and Eagles too. High scoring games. Packers and Bears, they barely cracked 30 in those games. And they're way over talked about. So I'm saying that one's overrated.
Good choice. Number 9. Name the most overrated, or perhaps you could say overcalled, penalty. Offensive holding, defensive pass interference, or unsportsmanlike conduct.
I think I'm gonna have to pick. I'm gonna have to pick unsportsmanlike conduct on that one. For a few reasons. One, I understand if the guy is celebrating like Antonio Brown, or Chad Ochocinco. Like, what are you doing? But if someone's just gonna do a low celebration on their touchdown, I don't believe that you should be called all the time for that. Like in the past 5 years, it's been extremely overcalled, and they've made new rules about it. I don't really like that, and I think it's very stupid and overrated. So I'm calling that.
All right, and I'm going to pull out my first veto finally, the beard veto. I have to go with defensive pass interference. I approve of the college rules where it's just 15-yard penalty. Sometimes in the NFL, it can be a 40 or 50-yard penalty because the pass down the field. It's the spot of the foul. And of course, if it happens in the end zone, then the offense gets it first and goal on the 1 yard line. I think it's a ridiculous penalty, and unless it's flagrant, it shouldn't be called. And I think it's gotten so ticky tacky. It gets to the point where anytime there's any sort of contact by a defensive player against an offensive player downfield, you're looking for that PI penalty. And the calls are probably five or even maybe closer 10-1 defensive pass interference versus offensive pass interference. They are probably 10-1. They hardly ever call offensive interference. So, yeah, for a variety of reasons, I have to go with defensive pass interference as the most overrated penalty in any sport ever. All right. Number 10. Name the most overrated stadium. Lambeau Field, AT&T Stadium, or Gillette Stadium.
Gillette. It's so simple. AT&T and Lambeau Field, they're actually awesome. I like them. Gillette, it's way over talked about, and people are just way too excited for Gillette games. So I'm gonna say Gillette.
And I'm going to veto you just because I have one left, and I can. And I'm going to go with AT&T Stadium. Overrated. I mean, come on. They let Dak Prescott into there every time the Cowboys play a home game. So that's overrated to me. Anyways, that was just for fun. No, I totally agree with you, by the way. But that was our first episode. Hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back soon for more content. God bless you all. Say bye, Dabbers.
Bye.